Here are 3 key reasons why your MTR should not be in an HOA. Okay. Now, I typically have, whether I have someone in the lab or someone I'm consulting that is looking at the midterm rental strategy specifically because their area has short-term rental regulations or HOA restrictions. And anytime you hear regulations, restrictions, etc., CCNR, which is, just another word for the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, which is a legal document that describes what your home can or cannot do. To me, that's just a restriction for a business. In a business, if I'm running a business, if I'm using this property to generate income, the last thing I want to do is have governance around what I can or cannot do, especially when it involves one of the main key strategies that we use in the midterm rental insurance space. Now, not all midterm rentals are created equal, which means that if you're looking for midterm rentals specifically for, travel nurse, etc., maybe you go on Furnish Finder, maybe you stay away from the Airbnbs of the world, and because you don't want to deal with that headache to begin with, that's the reason why you're going to MTR. Most people are going to MTR because they don't want to deal with the high turnover. They don't want to operate that kind of business, but they also want to make more income than they would traditionally make on a long-term rental. So if that is your story, there's still some things, if you have the opportunity to, especially if you're looking for a midterm rental, there's still some things that I would consider, and an HOA is definitely one of them. And here is why I say you shouldn't invest your MTR or co-host or manage or anything above that umbrella. You should really consider if there is an HOA, to stay away from an HOA. And here are the reasons. Number 1, the midterm rental insurance space that we're in requires you to market your property online. And the thing is with HOAs, covenants, conditions, restrictions, if you look at that document, that's one thing you want to look at. Don't listen to your realtor. Don't listen to a friend. Don't listen to anybody who's telling you this is what you can or cannot do. Make sure you get this document, the covenants, conditions, and restrictions in hand. Every HOA has one. It is your right to ask for one, especially if you're going to invest in a specific home, to understand what the restrictions and conditions are. This is important because one of the things or the strategies that we encourage when doing the midterm rental insurance strategy is that you also have an exit strategy, or a strategy that allows you to do short-term rentals between midterm rental contracts. Now, what is a midterm rental insurance contract? That is specifically when we are looking to house a displaced family due to an unforeseen event, and there's 2 people involved in that. Either it's a relocation specialist that's looking and scouring the internet for our availability for the homeowner like yourself that has a home that wants to cater to midterm rentals, 30-day stays or more, and or there's the policyholder that's been displaced that's looking online for options. Now, where might they be looking? They might be looking on areas or on platforms like Airbnb. They might be looking on platforms like Zillow. And if you have HOA restrictions that says that we do not allow for short-term rentals, it takes away one of the key pillars and main strategies that allows you to generate more income even when you don't have the ability to have a long-term or mid-term rental, I should say, 30-day stays or more, client in place. So what I don't want you to have is be in a situation where an HOA might say we have a 6-month requirement, or we have a 90-day requirement, or we even have a 12-month lease only requirement that then prevents you from being able to capitalize on a lot of what would be even considered short-term stays that begin with, because most midterm rental insurance contracts start with 30 days. So if in your HOA you have a 90-day minimum or restriction, now you're in a bit of a pickle, or you're doing it illegally, and no one wants to play that game. Especially if you're looking to generate income business, you don't want somebody else to have control and be able to shut down your operation, or at least start to ask questions around your operations. Even if I do have some loopholes that I can share with you on another video on how to actually navigate around this, That's not how I want to run my business, and that's not how you should run your business either. So one of the very important things when you're working with a realtor, don't take it from them. If you're currently getting value from watching this video, you'll want to make sure you take a second and click below to grab the midterm rental insurance blueprint to help accelerate your process in being able to land these midterm rental insurance contracts with respect to your marketplace. Make sure you click the button below and grab it and continue on with the gems in this video. Don't have them tell you I think that they allow it. Look for your covenants, conditions, and restrictions document. Go to the HOA and ask for that before you put money down, before you open up escrow, before you put your security deposit or your down payment, before you even get under contract. Get that document so you can assess it. Or maybe if it's super competitive in your market, get under contract, but part of your due diligence is you need to make sure you get that document so that you can fully understand what that HOA entails. Now, I will say, not all HOAs are created equal, which is a good sign. If your covenants, conditions, and restrictions document has very limited things, might be just landscaping things or what you can or cannot do to your door, but there's nothing about short-term rentals, etc. There's nothing or restrictions. There's nothing about tenant restrictions, etc. That's one thing you want to look for. Is there tenant restrictions, what you can or cannot do? Can you do month to month? Can you do short-term stays, etc.? Then again, you've opened up that door where it's okay. Maybe there's less risk. Just keep in mind that those covenant, conditions, restrictions, one thing I would ask is how often do they change? When was the last change that occurred? Who's in charge of that change? Are they for short-term rentals? Just say the word Airbnb. Are they for Airbnbs? Are they against Airbnbs? Find that out really quickly, because you don't want to get into a situation where they change rules on you because they don't like how someone's operating in the community. And find out how quickly that happens. Find out what their process is, because again, one of the things that will happen is that things can change. And that's the third point, right? Things might change. So number one is you want to make sure you're looking at your covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Number two, you want to make sure that there's no short-term rental regulations or tenant restrictions, because the midterm rental insurance strategy allows us to leverage both 30-day stays or more, sometimes even less. Sometimes we might even do some short-term rentals in between to make sure that we're still generating income. You don't want that restriction going into it if you have the option. I always say, if your existing situation is you own an asset that's currently in that, then you work with what you have, and there's ways to get around it. But if you are specifically in a position where you're starting fresh, I always say, put your best foot forward, set your best foot forward so that you don't have to overcome these hurdles that could have been avoided by simply looking into your HOA regulations. And keep in mind, the HOA fees, in my eyes, have a tendency to always go up and never come down. And that's going to be a line item that you have to factor in to your operating expenses, which then cuts into my cash flow. And you have to set, again, a margin, or at least a placeholder that price may change in the future. So it's really important for you to know that not only price change, but their regulations can as well. And that is why whenever I can, I go left. If the HOA is on the right, if the HOA is on the left, I go right, and a hard right, and I stay away from it like a 10-foot pole. Just for those reasons, as an investor, I do not love HOAs. They do serve its value and purposes in different areas, maybe even a primary residence. There's a lot of benefits to it, don't get me wrong, but here's the reason why. If I'm specifically going into the midterm rental insurance niche, I want to have all of possibilities and availabilities and flexibilities to run my business, market my business, be on the OTAs, do short-term rentals when required, and not have any rental restrictions whatsoever. Now that you have this information, whether you choose to invest your midterm rental in an HOA or not, the power is yours. But again, with all transformation is knowledge on the other side. If you want to have different results, you will do what's right for you with respect to the information you're able to receive. Again, keep your MTR away from HOAs if you can, so you can stay fully optimized for occupancy and profitability. If you got value from this video, make sure you check out why STR regulations still matter for your MTR.